Tumblr URL, and what was the first panel you ever went to? Yes.
I got this.
Okay, well, I can't, I'll start. Can we go this way? You guys more or less ready?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, so my name's Erin Kelly, Tumblr user LiterateNits. My first panel ever was, okay, it would be MiniCon 2000, everyone's gonna laugh at me, 2010, and it was whichever the first Brandon Sanderson one was on Saturday, because I went to that con to stalk Brandon Sanderson.
It's legit.
He's one of my very favorite fantasy authors. Age of the Wheel of Time, very good books if you're looking for epic fantasy to read. His magic systems are definitely appealing to those who play D&D. Yes, I know. I own all of his books, mostly in paper. I will hand them to you later.
I borrowed them after.
Damn it, I'm down on the list.
You're next.
What?
I'm looking up what my first
Maybe we
panel
should
come
go
back.
Maybe
Okay.
we should go my direction.
Okay, if you guys are ready, we'll go this
Yeah.
way.
I'm not ready, but Ty will take a long time.
No, I won't have
Answer.
my book left.
Oh, fuck, I'm Brian, and my Tumblr URL is Melancholic Galaxy. It's really hipster and really awful. It's all yellow. The first panel that I attended or?
Attended.
Okay. I don't know, I probably went to some really bad Kingdom Hearts panel. Probably.
Hello, welcome.
Okay.
Sit yourself down.
We had a new physical audience member.
Oh. Okay, so my name is Tori. My Tumblr URL is yes, this is Tori. It's super creative, I know. And the first panel I ever went to was, I actually only went to the last half hour of it, and that was at Detour 2 years ago, Panel Stuck. And that's where I saw those two, Morgan and Lindsay.
Infamous.
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Cass. My Tumblr URL is... Why am I the only one that's not loud enough? My Tumblr URL is Acid Pumpkin.
Acid dash pumpkin.
Acid-pumpkin.
Yeah.
Apparently that's important.
It is.
They can't find you otherwise.
It is important. The first panel I ever went to, I don't know, Detour 2007, some Vocaloid panel. I don't know.
Legit. Lindsay, and she should have a mic.
I think I'm okay for now. Okay, fine. My name is Lindsay, and my Tumblr URL is One Cool Cat, spelled with K's because Mortal Kombat is awesome. The first panel I went to was years ago, probably somewhere in 2006 or 7. It was at Convergence, and it was vilification tennis, and it was awesome. People insulting people for other people's entertainment is one of the best things I've ever watched.
My name is Andy. My Tumblr URL is really obnoxious, and no one's going to be able to spell it.
I can
Spell
spell
it.
it.
I can spell
Okay,
it.
they can only spell it because they've seen it enough. It's
spell
Tautochrome Grave, like the Tautochrome curve. Look it up, it's on Wikipedia. The first panel I ever went to was really a long time ago, in 2006, and I don't even remember what it was called. It was a panel about playing tag. Kakarumbo tag. There, Detour. Yeah, okay, that's it. Help.
Why do I have a microphone?
You don't need it.
That was Andy.
Okay, hello, my name's Morgan. My Tumblr URL is Firecracker Storm, all one word. There's no hyphens or anything. The first panel that I ever went to, I honestly don't. It was the Kakarumbo tag thing. Yeah, I hid in a corner for the majority of that game and sniped people from around corners. They hated me. I was too afraid of them, so I didn't get in their face at all.
Was it 2006?
I don't remember what year it was.
Okay.
Okay, everyone. I don't know, I'm taking over. Sup, name's Cal, most people call me Ty. The first panel I was ever at was Anime Detour 2008, and it was Japanese pop and rock at noon.
God.
Nerd.
Damn it.
Shut up, yeah, it was at noon.
You're only a nerd because you have the booklets with you.
So many.
But no, that's excellent preparation.
They're
and-
good reference tools
Yes.
for paneling.
Yes. So, So, first topic on, unless there's any questions, first topic on our to-do list is why should you do a panel? My big thing about why you should do a panel is that you have an idea that only works as a panel, and it has to be a panel, and it's not something you can just shoot as a CMV. It's not just a skit that you can throw up on YouTube and throw on your Tumblr. It's something that, you know, really it's interactive, and you want the live audience and you want everyone to be there. I say this mostly coming from a Homestuck perspective, because hereabouts we were talking about earlier, 12 Homestuck panels for Detour. No fandom needs that much exposure. Anyone else? Why should you do a panel?
I feel like if you want to do a panel, being passionate about the thing that you're doing a panel about is a good, solid must. Because if you're just doing a panel because you kind of think it'll be cool or it'll get you a lot of attention, it's going to be miserable the entire time and you're not going to enjoy yourself. And the people who are working with you are not going to enjoy it. So if you want to run a panel, make sure, again, have that idea that is independent, that would work best with a live audience, you know, not just a video recording or something. And make sure that it is something that you enjoy, please.
You also, for when you want to do a panel, granted, yeah, no fandom needs so much exposure, but if, in all actuality, the convention should be the one to give you the final say and be like, this panel should be the one that's going out. We're not saying that, oh no, 12 Homestuck panels to discourage you guys from doing these things. This panel is because we want you guys to make panels. So I don't want you guys to take that the wrong way at all, because that's not our intention. I also think that you guys don't do a panel because you feel required to do a panel, like everybody is telling you, oh yeah, you need to do this panel because you did this panel last time, or you haven't done a panel yet. No, do it because you want to. It'll cause you a lot of pain if you go through with it.
I think there's also a lot of people who do panels because they want to be popular, and that's not a bad thing to want. It's completely normal and a very common thing to want to be well liked and to want your idea to go over well, and there's nothing wrong with that, and you shouldn't feel bad because that's not your sole motivation, but that's a big motivation, and that can be a perfect starting point for you to turn it into something great. I mean, that's my opinion about wanting to do panels.
Like, adding on to that, if you want to be an actor in the future, getting on a panel where you play a role, good thing. Like, you're getting experience and popularity goes with it. You get your name out there, it's networking. Like, that's a solid motivation. I mean, you should have a lot more, like once more Morgan said, be passionate about it. Like it. Don't just do it because, it's popular right now and people seem to like it. I can't remember what the main character's name is, but he's kind of cool.
I've been to panels like that, not even going to effing live.
Anything down there? Anything else about why people should do panels? All right, moving on to different types of panels you can do.
Do we have any questions in the queue?
Oh yeah, any questions?
Oh yeah, we got a few.
Oh, let's regularly check that.
But
Yeah.
I mean like 3. Okay, we got from Bio in the chat, what kind of panels would you recommend? I noticed that were some people that were submitting game panels. Do you think that it would be more worth it to leave that to not be in a panel? Wait, what?
We will get to that. That is actually very much on the next point we were going to hit. So I'm going to skip that one just because we're about to do it. Any other questions?
What tips would you give to people who have never done a panel and want to go do one?
This whole panel's about. Right. Yeah, I think maybe we want to circle back to that at the end just so we can get through the whole how you do a panel process.
I think we can start off by saying ask for help.
We can touch on it.
Yeah, we can touch on it
Always
now. We
ask
will
for
come
help.
back to it.
There's nothing wrong with going to people who have done panels before. By example, all of us are here because we want to help.
Yeah.
And we are extremely open about giving that.
Seriously, any of the like 2,000 ways you can get a hold of me or Spurg Live, which is also me. Just you know, if you have questions, ask. If you really want the person who is doing the panel, and talk to them, because then when I'm watching your audition, if I've known how to talk to you, I'll be like, okay, yeah, this person like has come back. If you have a bad audition, but you took the time to say, you know, I'm really excited about this and really want to do a good audition, I might give you notes and let you send in a new audition, which you could do. I will think that, you know, this person has a lot of passion, which we talked about. Having the passion is like the most important thing. And I'll come back and I'll go, you know, this person had a slightly better audition. This person, I can like, took the time to come and talk to me. I can see their passion.
It's kind of like a job interview. When it comes down to it. Like if you apply at a place and you really want that job, but you don't tell them that you really want that job, and somebody else also said, hey, here's my application, I really want this job, they're gonna pick the person that said, hey, I really want this job, plus here's my application. Because making it seem more like you're a person as well, on top of just the character that you're auditioning for, is always a good point, or always something good to do, especially for auditioning. Like, you want to make sure that you're seen as a person as well. Because yeah, if you put in an audition and it's a great audition, and there's maybe 2 or 3 other people who also auditioned for that character and also put in great auditions, the person who's running the panel is probably going to be more likely to pick the person that, you know, expressed overt interest and dedication to this particular panel.
Also with asking for help, I know for a fact that my Ask box is always open. If you can't get a hold of me through Facebook, you can always get a hold of me through Tumblr. You can just drop something in. I'll set it private so that nobody else is seeing it on my blog. Feel free to ask any question, even if you think it's like a really dumb question, like anybody could know this question kind of thing, and I see there's some tea thing going on down there, but just ask.
A lot of conventions have open forums. If you ever have questions about organizing or what types of things go over well, check out the forums if conventions have one. I know Detour has a pretty extensive forum. SoccerCon has one. Most cons have a forum discussion space, and that's a good spot to meet up with people maybe in a fandom that isn't as popular, and they might not have Facebook groups or Tumblr groups. If you hit up the forums, you might be able to find people to come together and make something awesome. That's a good resource to use. Forums.
It definitely helps too with the forums that if you have a need for a particular character or a particular thing, posting on the forums is a great way to make contact with people that you wouldn't normally make contact with. So it's a good resource for saying, hey, I'm running this panel, the person who is going to be this character dropped out, I need somebody to fill their spot.
Yep. And we had a question in the audience.
Well, just on that, you can also use Tumblr's, like just tag the convention. People do check that very often for what their, what panels are going to be there.
For sure. Also, I mean, you can totally, if you're kind of going in and you don't know what you want to do with the panel, look at the forums for cons that aren't the one you're going to. Look at the past forums. Literally on our document here, and I'll post a link to this on my Tumblr when we're done. I have a lab, I usually do, but this is literally the sheet I got handed before I moderated my first discussion panel. And that's from WisCon, which is a feminist sci-fi fantasy con in Wisconsin. But, you know, so don't think that you can't check other con stuff, because that's a WisCon resource, but they stole it from Minicon. So, yeah, they're all interconnected.
Also on a post-panel sort of method, if you've already run your panel and you want to know how to improve it, ask people what they thought, what they did not like. It sucks to hear, but oh man, does it make it better next time. And you know, there's always good suggestions, even from a popular or not so popular panel. People usually have something to say. You just have to give them the opportunity.
Okay, so I said we were going to hit the types of panels that you can do thing, which is the next thing on our list anyway.
I got this, Aaron, I got this.
Okay, well, I'm not going to shut up if I don't let him talk, so go.
I got this. Okay, so a lot of people, especially in the Homestuck community and other fandoms, it's become a recent popular trend. I have all the books from conventions. But
please make a chart when we're done.
Yeah, I can.
Hey guys, can we swear? I noticed you're bleeping out the F word. Should we
Am I?
that?
I don't
You
know.
said effing. Like, can we swear?
I'm going. I don't know.
I swore already, so I think
Okay.
we're okay.
See if anyone cares.
I don't think anyone cares.
Does anyone care?
We're in a library, so try to keep it to a minimum, but I'm not going to stop
Online
you.
audience, do you care if we swear? I just rhymed.
One person says, I don't care.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, one
Audience
person.
participation.
Another
I like
person, nope. Okay, we're set.
Okay, well, a recent trend I've noticed just from going to panels and going to different conventions is definitely the rise of the character Q&A panel. Fun fact, that's not the only type of panel there is to run. It's certainly the more popular type among our fandom, but there are discussion panels, the moderating panels that you do. There's variety show type panels, Q&A, game panels, choose your own adventure. There's industry specific panels, which you can't do unless you're in the industry. But those are really cool to go to. They're usually like state of the industry. I know they do on a detour every year about like how anime is and stuff.
What's the choose your own adventure?
So that's like, there's a couple of them that are on YouTube that are pretty good. But have you ever read those choose your own adventure books? Super old, like down at the bottom of the page it says like, do you want to go in the left door, turn to page 82? It's like that, but then in panel form.
So the audience picks where the panel kind of goes.
Yeah, so like say you have like a thing, you're like, okay,
If that would help.
Yeah.
Oh.
Would you prefer an example?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ty, do our off panels example.
Yeah.
Since we did that.
Well,
Okay, well, Andy starts, go, talk about it. Microphone.
I'll volunteer if you volunteer. Are we doing like a
yeah, we're doing a volunteer.
Oh, okay, cool.
I'm fucking lazy. I'm sitting.
Wait, no, I'm gonna sit my ass
I'm not very
down.
loud. So, all right. We are doing a choose your own adventure. Morgan is our knight. He's the one who's going to fight the monster.
Can I be the, oh wait, you're gonna be the monster.
I'm going to be the monster. So, you are the player deciding how Morgan, the knight, interacts with me, the monster. I automatically have like a scripted reaction to what he does based on what you choose. So, your options are A, have Morgan punch me in the face. Please don't. B, he kicks me. C, he drops to the ground and starts crying like a baby, begging for his life. Or D, he tries to talk me out of attacking him. What is your audience choice? A, you punch me in the face. And then I would have a scripted reaction of, you know, maybe I go for his gun. And now you then get to choose the next action based on a provided script.
And this could impact the entire panel. Like maybe if you picked, hey, talk to the monster, maybe the monster could become an ally. Now you've killed the monster and it will no longer show up the entire panel and you move on.
The thing about scripted choose your own adventure panels is that there's a lot of memorizing or improv that goes into these types of panels. We ran one for off.
And it's not or, it's and.
It's and.
It's definitely
Yeah. Sorry, Aaron. Yeah, that's okay, yeah, that's pretty true too. Because if you think about it, every single option will have a branch path that you'll need to make sure that everyone on the cast knows, you know, and then from there there'll be another branched path that will be scripted, which will have another branch. But you know, what if they actually choose like the first branch way at the beginning, then you gotta memorize those 20 paths, and you know, it can get pretty hectic, but if you have a good group of people behind you and you have a pretty good script and run through, they're really fun to watch. I've been to 1 or 2 of them in the past, and they're really fun to put on if you can do all that stuff. There's other types of panels too. Like I said, pros get state of industry. There's one other, there's the how-to panels, like how to make a kimono, how to make a horn, how to make a popular one for D2 was fancy Lolita hats, was one that came up for years and years and years. So there's those types.
How to run a panel. How to run a panel.
I
had to make the fourth wall, guys. I had to.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff like that. There are game panels, gaming panels, but there's as far as game panels go, we have a section on game panels. I don't know if we should talk about it now or
we can touch on it. I mean, one cool thing is that there's 2 kind of game panels. There's the kind where you're going to bring a lot of audience in, and there's the kind, I've been to them and they've been amazing, where the panel is playing a game you're watching. And you wouldn't think it works best with storytelling games. The first one I ever went to was Once Upon a Time. But not the show. There's a game called Once Upon. Okay, the first one I ever went to was Once Upon a Time, and it was these fantasy authors telling the story, and it was amazing. Probably the best panel I went to at that con.
Because I remember that there was a question actually in the thing that said, or was it an audience question? Someone asked on game panels and if they should be done, because I noticed a lot of them in submissions.
Also, game tournament panels happen a lot. A lot of the time what I've noticed with game tournament panels is those are generally kind of convention run, but that doesn't mean you can't do them.
And then Brian had a point about other kinds of panels that are kind of offshooty. Yeah, I can promote myself a little bit. Just make sure you speak up.
Yeah, I'm speaking up. So, a specific type that is kind of done in like fandom kind of areas where you can run like a specific kind of panel relating to your fandom. An example is the Vocaloid dancing panel that I run. Vocaloids, you know, they have music. They also have dancing. We dance. It's pretty easy. I also have a bunch of friends who do a Team Rocket initiation panel where you are a part of Team Rocket and you're going in and they teach you the basics and everything. It's really fun. The guy who runs it cosplays Giovanni and he's their leader. It's really funny. So you can take a specific thing from a fandom and turn that all into your panel, like Kingdom Hearts or something. You could take your audience on a journey.
I've seen bopping panels.
You've seen what?
Bopping panels? Remember in the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 2, Roxas'
Oh,
thing where you
right.
panels dedicated to that.
Yeah, definitely.
Wasn't that game called
Struggle?
Struggle, yeah.
Well, they called it bopping at Detour, right?
Bopping at Detour, but there was also last Annie Mini, they had the pro bending tournament.
That's cool.
I wanted to do that. No, that was Detour, and I wanted to
Detour, one of these.
We were going to do it because we were in
It was
Avatar.
at both. Okay, well, the point is, it's a fandom-based sport made friendly for the tournament. Quidditch is another thing that people do for an actual sport.
Yeah, and I mean, I think those are kind of some of the best fandom panels because they're something you can only do as a panel, and they're bringing the fandom really to life and really making it kind of spark, and I think it makes a really great experience, which is the best part of the panel, I think.
And they're really original. They're not just like, you know, a how-to panel, choose your own adventure, variety show, Q&A. They're very original and very specific to the fandom. So that makes them interesting.
So the thing, I guess, when picking a game panel is to make sure that it actually has something to do pertaining that makes it original to your fandom. Because you can run a game panel that doesn't have anything to do with a fandom. You don't have to put a fandom attached to it. I went to a couple amazing game panels. There was like Anime Guess That Song. There's been trivia. There was Anime Cash Cab a couple years back. Yes, there
OTP
was.
speed dating.
Yeah, there was.
Been there.
There was like you said the tag games. There was a Mafia game panel. Like those are open to everybody because as soon as you put a fandom label on it, you immediately exclude a bunch of your potential audience. So if you want to play a game, I would think really hard about attaching your fandom name to it. Because a lot of things don't necessarily need that name attached. You can still run a fantastic gaming panel and not have it be like, just like, I'm going to do Naruto tag. Well, why is it Naruto tag? Is there something about your tag that makes it Naruto? Or do you just want a bunch of Naruto fans in one room playing tag? I mean, that's not a bad thing, but you could do that in the courtyard. I know that Detour used to actually have outdoor events. They don't anymore, but they used to. They used to have like scavenger hunts and shit that you would do outside. And if you just talk to con security or con ops and be like, hey, if we get a big group of people, are we allowed to use a space maybe outside for a thing, and talk with them and see if they want that, as opposed to taking up a panel room for Naruto tag. That's just my idea on game panels. They're fine if you have a reason to put a fandom to it, but if you don't, you should just make a regular game panel so that anyone can come in and play.
Also, playing tag in a closed room is boring.
Yeah, a note on that. When you sign up for a panel, you don't exactly know what room you're gonna get. So if you're kind of playing tag, I mean, this room is great and big, and you can kind of play maybe that one shadow or stop tag. But if you get put in one of those closets like we got put into for our first Esper Live,
No, second Esper Live, Detour last year.
Oh yeah, that was
Detour last
tall.
year.
That's what it was, yeah.
Yeah, I remember, because I was in the bigger room right next to you guys.
Good times. Was your panel room all full?
Do
No!
we have any more questions?
We took
in
people away at the
live
door.
stream
Yeah.
chat?
There's one. What kind of panels do you like that you think are not done enough?
That's a good question, actually.
Okay,
That's a really
yeah,
great question.
I really had,
adventure panels.
yeah, I
Expand.
also had a lot of fun doing our Trickster panel. That one actually went over really well, and I haven't seen one like that. That was very original. We, took on the Tricksters from Homestuck, and basically we played games the whole panel. It was very interactive, but it
Threw
was
candy at people. And
That was my favorite part.
and threw candy at people. Yes,
About
and
70% of that entire panel was
was
just
throwing candy,
at people.
and it was a lot of fun.
Is that the Trickster panel at Anime Fusion?
Yeah.
Yes, it was a fusion, and that I mean, it was kind of a game panel, but it was also kind of like an interactive panel, and it was really
high energy, high movement,
and
high
a lot of
participation.
fun, and
a ton of audience participation. Those are like the most fun I've ever had on panels, is when you really, really connect with the audiences and have them participate throughout the entire panel.
And we got a lot of people that came up to Erin and asked her to do it again because they enjoyed it so much.
Game panels in particular are just really fun. One of the most fun game panels I ever went to was I went to the Anime Olympics, which was really fun, which consisted of my two friends cosplaying Russia and CL winning the entire thing. It was hilarious, but it's just, you can take so many new games and throw a bunch of audience members into it. It's so much fun. It keeps people from sitting in a chair for an hour, which is, it's fine. There are certain panels where, not having audience come up and back is fine. Hi.
My favorite kind of panel that's only been done once, and I've never seen it happen again, and I really wish it would, is cooking panels.
Oh!
I would love to find another cooking panel. It was in Anime Iowa, which is surprising.
Hey, no bashing any cons.
I have a booklet for Anime Iowa.
But it's like we had one or two people who did here's all of our cooking supplies, we have them organized on the table, everyone goes up, grabs these things, and we're going to teach you how to make X, Y, and Z. And then you get to eat it. That was the funnest panel I've ever been on, and I've never seen it since.
Well, I was going to say Kakarumbo tag and Matrix tag, but I picked that one because I don't know how to cook. That would be fantastic. But not expanding on that, I really like the ones where I know Kakarumbo tag was mentioned. I don't think they do that one anymore.
No.
But Convergence has Matrix tag,
Which is really fun.
Which is really fun, and you meet in the panel room. You pick a team, whether you're on the humans or the computer people. I don't remember anymore. Scions, thank you. That much better. But and you get your team, you pick out your main key players. I'm not going to explain the rules of the game, and then you go out through the entire convention and you play tag, and you're hiding among other con members. You can't run and you can't be violent, but it's so fun to go on secret sabotage missions, sneaking through the con.
It's also kind of terrifying.
It's also kind of terrifying. Maybe I just like sneaking places, but
You're being hunted
fun
the
as
entire
hell.
time.
I actually am really boring, and I miss trivia panels. I used to be really good at Name That Anime Song, and I kicked ass at Anime Cash Cab, even though I wasn't actually up there, but I knew all the answers. I miss trivia. Trivia is fun, and they don't get done enough, probably because they're boring, but I like them because I like knowing stuff and proving that I know stuff because I like to toot my own horn. But they're a thing that I've noticed they're on the decline. When you look at more recent panel booklets, you see a lot of Q&A, skit, and discussion panels, but we're not seeing as many, trivia-based panels. I miss those. Those are fun.
For me,
They also had prizes.
yeah. I am definitely a big fan of any panel that is interactive with its audience. I don't go to a lot of discussion panels because almost every single discussion panel that I have ever been to has been the panelists discussing it with each other. So, side note, if you're gonna make a discussion panel, make it a discussion panel, not a discussion panel.
You'll know, it's hard for you internet people, but I have pauses built in to stop and ask for questions.
Exactly.
Because I want to hear from you guys too, because sometimes I've been in audiences where I've been people's favorite panelist.
Yeah. Because especially in a discussion panel, if you stop and talk to your audience for, hey, anybody have any questions, and actually make it a discussion, like a two-way discussion, it's really nice. But that never happens usually at discussion panels that I go to, so I kind of stopped going to them. Back to what I was originally saying, you'll learn that I tangent a lot. Dirk. Thanks.
No problem.
Can I interrupt you then
No,
to break the tangent?
I was gonna go back.
Go back then.
Interactive panels.
Keep moving. We have other things to cover, guys.
Interactive
We've
panels.
made it 2 points
I like
into
that.
our 10-point outline.
So So interacting with the audience, so well-run game panels and even Q&A/skit panels. If you have audience interaction, they're a lot more interesting and memorable.
I try to build that into Spur Live when we do them. I try and say I try and have 2 or 3 skits where I'm this one has audience participation. Jeopardy is my favorite. I'm not allowed to do it anymore, but Jeopardy is my favorite. Doing a game show, though, if you're doing a skit-based one, having a game show in there means that you get the audience up there, you get the audience much more engaged, and you want to pepper those throughout. You don't want to have like, get to that. You don't want to have a pile of stuff, of thing. Basically, you don't want to have a pile of interaction and then they sit there for 45 minutes. It's like 10 minutes interaction, 10 minutes interaction. And you have a question.
Is there a specific reason as to why you weren't allowed to do that?
I've overdone it.
Because we've done it for 2 panels almost in a row.
Because I said no.
And I don't want to.
Morgan has vetoed it, and Morgan is jerk. And if Morgan doesn't want to do it,
Morgan's
then
been
we
the
usually
host
don't do it.
both
Yeah,
times.
well, you make a good
To summarize
event.
it quickly,
I do make a good
you
Alice
don't want to
story.
repeat the same idea every time.
Yeah.
It's not fun for people to watch, and it's less fun for people to perform.
That's not saying we're not doing a game show. We totally are doing a game show.
But you know what's also a good idea? Doing something memorable.
Back on track.
Anyway, back on track, yeah. Any other questions about different types of panels? Audience, online.
Let's see here. Oh, Luthera says, what is Andy knitting?
That we'll get to if we have time at the end.
Okay.
Can of worms.
Okay, another one. What kind of interaction panel would you recommend?
There are lots of options. If you do a discussion one, involve the audience. It's a lot more fun, and you don't seem very rude if you're involving them, because it's really easy for discussion panels to seem really high and mighty, and it's not fun to sit through those.
No.
I have a random one.
Okay.
I had went to one, I don't even remember the con, but it was called What Happens in the Dungeon Does Not Stay in the Dungeon. And it was a bunch of D&D DMs telling stories of what happened in the campaigns. And then after they told like 3 stories, like, okay guys, now most of your players, what are your stories? And then like for 10 or 15 minutes of just a couple audience members just got to go on what crazy adventures their warriors had had. And that was fun. I got to tell a lot of stories.
Yep, I do one like that for video games. We kind of brand it as a retro video game thing, but it's mostly about anything that falls into the category that game was my childhood. So anything you played as a kid. And we absolutely, we'll answer a question, we'll go around the panel like we do now, and then we'll open it up and get the audience reactions. And those are really fun. I love those.
Yeah, those are a really popular type of panel throughout the years. They come in every shape and size and fandom. Some of them are, one of my favorites was Con Horror Stories, where it starts with industry people up there talking about their worst con adventures ever, like the time the hotel forgot they were putting on a convention, or the time they didn't book rooms for the celebrity guests, or that time they had a person strip in front of them and ask them to sign their chest. They opened it with hilarious stories and then went, okay audience, how about you? And then we had people raising their hands and telling them like the most outrageous stories they had ever heard at conventions, and just experiences that I laughed for like the entire panel. It was so effing hilarious. I don't even...
So you censored yourself again.
I do. I have moments where I want to swear and then I'm like, I'm in a public place, I shouldn't.
No, it's because Carcat is letting Ty here, and Ty,
True. We actually,
Taking a step back.
Anyway,
we should move on.
Anything else about different types of panels?
I know for me, I know that we've touched on, at least for this instance, a lot of people really like the story panels. I find those interesting, but one of the things that I really like doing as both a viewer and a panelist is I like, especially as a panelist, I don't know if anybody in the audience has ever been to any of the panels that I've been on, but one of my favorite things is to harass the audience.
Yes, I was gonna bring that up. Okay, like no joke, I think we're on the same mental wavelength. Fucking with the audience is the greatest thing ever.
I have a comment on that. Panel stuck.
They
If
fuck
anyone
with
has
the
ever
audience.
been to a panel stuck, especially the last 2 of them,
Probably watched them.
or if you've watched it, it is the most fun as a panelist to go into the audience and just be shits. Like seriously, it's great.
There's a panel that doesn't get talked about anymore just because it doesn't get talked about. Should have got me Death Punch.
Oh my God.
I'll just go out and say that.
No.
That panel, they messed with us for the entire time, and it was hilarious. People were sitting on other people's laps, and people were in the audience screwing with us. Like, anytime you can get your panelists out on the floor, walking among, I know we did a little bit with the Blue's Clues skit, where we had us walking around, interacting with the people sitting down. Those make it for when you're sitting there, like I wasn't on the Death Punch panel, I was sitting, and watching them screw with us was hilarious, and it keeps you on your toes, and you're not just sitting there watching static actors. They're up there, and then they're acting with you, and it makes it really fun. So those are my favorite. Yeah.
Okay, question from the audience, and then we really need to move on.
Okay.
On the screwing with, since I am running a panel at Detour that's interactive, I was thinking of starting it out with a couple of seats that we're gonna have cast members in there. Do you think that's a good idea?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
definitely.
yeah.
We've done it. We've done it at least 2 of them.
Tricksters climbed out from under the tables
Everywhere.
and from in the crowd.
I have a quick thing to add in is, as much as people like watching panels, they like feeling like they were a part of it.
Yeah.
So if you can make them feel like they were in that experience, they weren't just audience members, they're gonna love it a lot.
And then a thing, since we're talking about that, I was gonna say, just because we're fucking with the audience, if you're running a panel, I would recommend having a couple rows of seats reserved for people who do not want to be fucked with. Yeah, definitely. Like, this is just putting in mind for people who run panels and stuff. If you're going to have extensive interaction, have a zone where the cast will not go in and mess with people, because some people have boundaries and some people don't like to be touched. And that's a good thing to note if you're planning on running one that has extensive interaction with the audience. Just make sure that you do have a space that people can sit if they don't want to be messed with. Maybe announce it at the start of the panel and be like, hey, anyone who doesn't want to be touched or sat on or questioned or brought up on stage, because I have extreme stage fright and will faint, definitely have them sit in a certain area, and then make sure that your cast knows, don't touch those people. Don't bring them up, don't interact. So that way it feels safe for the people who maybe don't want that but want to watch that happen.
Right. And that goes back to the whole, this is a thing that can only be a panel thing.
Yeah.
If it can only be a panel, then having your idea there is great. We really need to move on. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it was just quickly to add that. That's really important, because the last panel I was actually in this panel, it was at Fusion, and someone, because we didn't tell people to move, and we had to stop it because someone had a panic attack. We had to move.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really, really, really for people who are wanting to run a panel. Think about those kind of things and run it by people. I have a little bit of social anxiety, but I have people I run stuff past just because I'm like, okay, I'm worried that this might trigger something. Am I okay? What do I need to do to make sure this is okay? But let's move on to organization of how your panel is run. This part is embarrassing for me because it says to have a clear leader, which is usually me. Very much in charge is good. I have then put a chain of command, which is not an actual physical chain, that I use to beat you with until you understand who's in command. Much as I would like it to be.
Then what did you do to me last week? I don't.
But having someone who's the point person. Honestly, if you're thinking about co-running a panel, make sure you think that other person's going to do the same amount of work, because most of the time, one person ends up doing all the work and the other person thinks they've done all the work.
Let me tell you a thing about that.
Everyone's got a story, but keep them brief. We have a lot to cover.
Very brief. Very brief. Okay, I was running a panel, not naming any names here because that's not what I'm here to do.
Positive.
Positive. I ended up doing all the work, and it was hell, and I had to take a break from running panels that I actually really enjoy doing because I ended up doing all the work. It's not fun to do everything yourself.
Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy that shoves everything on you and is like, oh, what do you mean? You told me you'd do everything. No, don't be that guy.
Chain of command thing, important thing. You cannot be everywhere. You can't always be somewhere.
You can't be everywhere.
Having someone who you talk to a lot, who might maybe know what's going on if you're not around, really good. That's what I meant by chain of command. Just usually there's a few people who have talked to me enough that they maybe can answer a question or two if I am, let's say, at work and can't answer questions. Because I have had experiences where I've been at work, I have gotten frantic texts, I have snuck into the back, sent a text saying, hang on, I will be off work at 10, I will answer, and people have done stupid things before I got off work. So really having a chain of command and maybe making sure people use it it's really useful.
It also helps you not be as stressed out, Erin.
Yeah. What delegating? Sucking at delegating? What?
And it's not just having a clear leader, too. It's making sure everyone else knows what their contribution means. So if you're just an actor, actress, memorize your lines. Memorize your part. Know your improv cues. If you're writing, actively add ideas. You have a question? You're making mouth movements. Yes,
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm just thinking
Okay.
Careful with that.
Also, like, if you have to make an outfit, have it done. If you need to drop last second, have someone as a backup so that the panelists don't have to scramble to cover the person who can't be there anymore. We've been put in that position many times.
Talk to the leader before you enlist a backup, though, in case they have their own backup.
Exactly.
Because usually the few times we've had to replace people last minute, half of the times I've had like a second runner-up who was really close and I wanted to pick them for the role and I got to bring them in. And honestly, that's a great feeling. Like, I hate that we lost the people we lost, but at the same time, getting to bring someone in who I know really want to be in the panel is great. But definitely say, hey, I've talked to this person. If you want to use them, they have time and are willing.
Having understudies is a very good thing.
Yep.
That note deadlines are also very important. Have deadlines of auditions need to be in on these times. We're having rehearsals at the con on these times. You can also bring these things up for negotiations. I always have to schedule rehearsals at the convention because people are at college, people live far away, they're only together at the convention. You need to schedule things. And you can also work around people's schedules. Say they have other panels, other commitments. Be open and be free to work with your panelists. It doesn't have to be a push, pull, tug, tug type of thing.
In my experience, on the other hand, it is good to say, I would like to have a rehearsal on this day at this time, and then invite comment. Don't say, I want to rehearse.
Yeah.
Because no one will volunteer a time and a place. Volunteer a time and a place. That's on you as a leader.
And then I guess as far as auditions go, if you are running a panel that has characters, so like Q&A or adventure or something like that, don't keep pushing your audition dates back and back and back and back because you don't have all the characters. Say, okay, that's it. We don't have the characters, either work with it or push your panel off. Like what we did for off was we had 3 scripts for if we didn't have certain characters. We had a script for if we, believe it or not, we had a script if the batter was gone, the main character.
Actually.
We had a plan for that. We had a script for if half of the cast didn't show up. We had a script for if the audience didn't show up.
We did, because it was a 9 a.m. panel.
Yeah, so like if you are waiting for the full cast of characters, don't keep pushing your audition dates back and back and back. Stick with maybe one pushback, and then if you don't get the characters, either work with what you have or say we'll do it another time. There's no shame in just putting it off until you have everybody.
There's also,
if you want everybody.
There's also the option too of if you're unable to get a certain character that you want for your panel, strong arm your friends.
You owe me. You owe me, get on my panel.
Also, it's a thing I've noticed a lot this coming detour. People are already done with auditions and they don't have past their cast. Way early on the auditions, in my opinion, to do it a couple of months before. I do mine 6 weeks. I'm gonna put auditions for Spurb Live up next week-ish. And I'm gonna run it till about 6 weeks before the con. That's when I cast, that's when we start rehearsing. You don't really need more time than that.
Right.
You're not gonna benefit from the extra writing time, you're not gonna benefit from the extra rehearsal time, because you're still gonna be dealing with people being far away and not having time.
Your idea should already, if you're running a panel, your idea should be mostly thought out or already done before you even start a casting call.
Yeah.
And also, I'm gonna cut in now because you guys talk a lot. If you can't get somebody, say you got like 12 out of 13 or 7 out of 8, just think of a creative and hilarious reason for that other character to not be there. Like, it's pretty easy and can be pretty comedic value of, oh, we have all the alpha kids, but Jake isn't here. Well, I mean, clearly at that canon point, Roxy, Jane, and Dirk are very pissed at Jake, so we can have definitely fun stories to cover in the front to cover your guys' butt.
Or, Jake just fell down and hit his head again.
I have a
He's unconscious a lot.
option that goes back to what we were talking about with structure that we didn't cover yet, which was being prepared to intervene with the audience. There are times where someone may have a panic attack and you need to stop what's going on and take care of that, or someone may be acting inappropriately that puts other people of the audience at risk or the panelists at risk. Personal comfort, things like that. Having someone prepared to do that is important. Do you have a question or a comment?
I have a comment.
Speak loudly.
I'm speaking loudly.
No, you're not.
No.
Project!
Do you want to fight?
Yeah, I do. Go.
Guys.
But yes.
I ran a panel once, and kind of like what you said earlier about with having a clear leader thing, is you have to have a very clear leader. But you also, with that regard, have to think about what is best for the panel. If you as a leader are not best to run the panel because your character does not make sense running the panel, which at the time of running my panel it did, because my character was the character that didn't fucking talk. You have to elect someone else to be the host of the panel. Still make it clear with your panelists, you are the leader of the group, but that person is then in charge of running the panel, making sure that everything that's being done on the panel is going. What we also did with why I interrupted with your how we need to stop and get people out or figuring things out. We also, it's good to elect people who are going to be the people that are going to take care of those situations before the panel takes place. We called them the enforcers, and we had about 3 people on our panel that were in charge of that. If someone in the audience was tossing them up, if someone in the panel itself was becoming a liability or being a dick, they were in charge of taking that person aside and telling them they needed to calm down. Another really useful thing that we had in our group is we also had a person that we just called the keeper, and they were the person that kept track of time. So that was the quiet person, the person that didn't really have to talk on the panel. It made sense for their character not to be really involved, and they basically sat with their phone out and made sure that as the time went by, they would tap the host and be like, it's like, just make a gesture like it's time to move on. And then the host would be like, okay, let's go.
Yep, and if you look at the more recent Spurb Lives, I've started doing that a lot more. I'll have a co-host up there with me. I'm usually hosting. But Caliborn can't host by himself. No, it's a bad plan. So I always usually have a co-host, and you'll see me, I'll nudge them and be like, call on this person who's totally not a planted question next, and then we'll be able to move into our next skit. That kind of stuff. Also, we had the Trickster panel, if you're looking for another example, we had designated garbage picker-uppers. Because we knew we were throwing candy at people, and all that candy had wrappers. So we had people with garbage bags on hand, and that's all stuff you really have to think of
on the Trickster
well before.
note, you were also the leader of the panel, but you had Ty as Carcat be the host.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I've had Carcat host a lot.
I've only twice.
That's a lot of the panels we've done, though.
That's a good thing when we bring up garbage. I don't think it's on our little, it is later. It's way back on our bullet points. But I was gonna say, when you're thinking about running a panel and structuring it, it's good to know about what kind of facilities that you'll need the convention to provide you. If you need a garbage can, if you need to think about making a mess. There was a lot of controversy at a con I went to. I won't name names, but there was a Naruto panel. I'm not even gonna name the name of the panel, but they had a ramen eating contest. And they didn't think about cleanup, and they got ramen everywhere. It was on the floor, it was on the tables, it was just disgusting. And they didn't think about that kind of stuff. They just, you know what, they're like, if you're gonna have food, have a spot for it to be cleaned up. If you're gonna have something that could make a mess, like confetti or balloons or whatever, think about how you're gonna clean that up, make preparations, contact the convention, like, make sure that that kind of stuff is okay to put on a panel. Because, yeah.
Hotel stuff's not your mom. They're not supposed to clean up after you. Clean up after yourself.
There's a reason the con suite rooms are like plastic floors. Just don't, think about all that kind of stuff. If you think it's gonna be really funny, make sure that you can clean up after it and it won't be a horrible disaster.
Exactly.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
Okay. Also, if you're planning on doing something to like the things in the room, make sure it's something that can be cleaned up. Because I was in a panel once where someone had drawn a very lewd picture on the tablecloth in front of me. No. And every time I looked at it, I broke character completely and busted out laughing, which actually ended up working out for the panel we were on, because we turned it into an exhibit. It was a Gravity Falls panel, and we turned it into an exhibit, and people like gave us nickels so they can look at what I was freaking out about. But at the same time, don't do that.
Yeah, if
Make sure it can be cleaned up.
Yeah, I mean, that was a pencil drawing, but they didn't erase it afterwards. Yeah. And we talked to people later, and it had been there for 2 days.
I think
one more point we wanted to make on organization, which is if there is unrest between your cast members, which sucks, and we're all making faces because it has happened to every single one of us, that's on you as a leader to step in. And sometimes you have to be incredibly blunt, and you have to sit someone down and go, you are out of line. Do I need to tell the rest of the cast to ignore you? You're still in the cast. Like, I don't think I would ever fire someone over that, but I might tell the rest of the cast to not listen to you. if it's bad enough. You know, it's really, you've got to putting the best show possible on ahead of any interpersonal stuff that's going on. I've also had casts where people have worked through really, really uncomfortable situations and put on a great show, and that's a testament to them as actors. But yeah, really pay attention to what's going on with your cast, and if people are having issues, make sure you're working with that. I really don't want to do examples for that if I can avoid it, but
I'm not giving an example, but I am commenting on the actor side of things, where if you are put in an uncomfortable situation with a cast member or someone who's, you know, assisting with the panel, talk to your leader about it to give them a heads up so they can appropriately help you. That's what they're there for. They're meant to help.
Yep. And if you don't and they find out not from you, they are going to be mad at you.
There's also a note, if you are actually upset with your leader, of all things, and you're a cast member and you're upset with your leader, it happens. Sometimes your leader is actually not a great leader. It's just a matter of things. And a lot of it, sometimes it happens where you drop out because you honestly can't work with this person, and that's perfectly fine. Don't ever feel like you have to be somewhere if it makes you uncomfortable, if it makes you feel terrible every time you're there. But you still have to make sure that you give them appropriate time. You're still in charge of something, but...
And honestly, you should talk to your leader, or this is where the chain of command comes in.
Someone else.
Talk to someone who you know the leader will listen to. You had something to say.
I was just gonna say what you said.
Yeah. This is why I say chain of command is highly useful. Because yeah, maybe you are afraid to talk to me because apparently I'm scary. Terrifying. But other people will. Some people aren't afraid of me, and you can talk to them, or you know, talk to people. Really, really talking to your leader is the best way to go. If you're for some reason feel like you can't, talk to someone else and say, hey, what do I do? I'm afraid to bring this up. Can you help me? Because you don't want to sit around there and be uncomfortable.
Are we still on the organization bullet point?
Well, we should
Yes,
actually
question
move
break.
on.
Yes, we should move on. We should answer questions and then move on to.
Can I say one thing about organization before we move on?
Yeah.
There's an issue that comes up every once in a while, and I've seen it happen twice to panels that I've gone to. Make sure that when you join a panel, you actually commit to it and actually show up to it. The very first panel that I've ever been on was an accident because none of our panelists showed up. So audience members kind of pointed random people in the audience and shoved them up front. And that was the first panel I've ever been on. And it was kind of a surprise, but nobody showed up.
Yeah, if we have time to get to horror stories, we have them.
Yeah, we have them.
Audience questions, internet questions.
Oh, right. My computer.
Oh God, he says.
My computer died. Hold on.
Oh, okay. We'll let Zach look at the questions.
One thing, since we are talking about organization, putting on a panel, have a Skype group for your people.
And a Facebook group.
And a Facebook group. And invite everyone to it.
Google Doc.
And a Google Doc.
Google Docs.
Google document.
I literally do not think I've run a panel in the last 5 years.
That way you have everybody and can contact them. You have everybody that can, and you can alert everybody. Facebook is good for mass alerting people. Skype is good for mass alerting people. And the Google Doc is great for discussion, and assign everyone a text color and then go to town. And that's all stuff you do before you even think about putting on the panel. You get all this stuff ready, you get things ready, collaboration points.
I cast people and they find out by getting added to the Skype group, and I say, here's the Google Doc, go look now.
That's actually how it's added to the panel.
Ty, I'm gonna interrupt you because questions, and we're on a time schedule.
Questions.
I'm the keeper in this instance.
Well, the question is con horror or panel horror stories, and you're getting to that, right?
Okay,
yeah, we'll get to it if there's
end.
time. We'll get to it if there's time for sure.
On casting, let's go to our next point. If there's acting.
Objectivity. I try so hard at this. I don't think I try, thank you, I do so hard at this. I don't cast I cast my friends because they're actually really good. If someone auditioned better than them, I would call them in tears and say, I can't cast you. This audition is actually Dave Strider auditioned. I can't cast you. Sorry.
Okay, if you found someone who's better at Dave Strider than Lindsay, I'd be impressed.
Guys, don't say that. But, okay, if that happened, the first thing I would do would be get a second set of eyes on it. Yep. Because I mean, I almost always do. If I have a close call, I will get a second unbiased set of eyes on there. I actually have, like, I literally have a list of people I talk to if I can't make a casting call. Like, I start with the cast itself. If they've got people running unopposed, as it were, I'll have them help me. I try really hard to not be biased. I try hard to not let any, personal relationships, they're a factor, but they are way down on the list. You know, it's got to be, if everything else is the same, and I know this person is friends with the entire group, and this person isn't, I'll go with the first person, but only if everything else is entirely equal. Most of the time, it's got to be, can you do the part well? Because really, the goal is to have the best possible panel.
On that note.
On that note.
Top left, start Lindsay.
Okay, on that note, what Ashley did for panel stuff was just like a couple people came really close. She just said that, okay, you guys are going to have an audition off. I gave you the prompted questions. Now I'm going to Skype you at this time. Be ready, and I'm going to ask you questions, and you will have to answer in character, purely improv.
Ashley's panels are really heavily based in improv.
Yes.
So very.
So that was important for that. Yeah, good point. So, like, if two are close, just feel free to, like, test both of them a little further. It's okay.
Oh, yeah. You guys don't know Ashley's the runner of panel stuff.
Yeah.
And
I mentioned that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay. And as a panel runner, be prepared for people to give you shit over, how come you didn't pick me? How come you didn't do this? How come you always pick this person? I think you're unfair because these, and these always are on your panel. You're going to get that no matter what you do. You could scrap your entire cast, pick all new people, and you'll still get shit after the panel. People going, how come you didn't use these people? And if you pick all your buddies, they'll go, how come you used your buddies? As if you run a panel, you're going to get that. It will happen. There's no way to avoid it.
And I mean, honestly, choosing your buddies is a valid option. It does open you up for that because you don't have a reason. That's why I stress objectivity, because I'm like, look, objectively speaking, this audition was better. This person is also a very good blank, but they didn't audition as well, and it's a performance-based thing. I like having that level of security going, I made this choice, here are my reasons. I don't have to feel bad because you're giving me flack. You can give me flack, but I know I have my reasons for making that choice. It's a lot about my peace of mind as a panel runner. Anything else?
Moving on.
All right, I want to talk for a minute because I don't think people get to know very much. Pipe up if you have anything about what I look for in an audition, because I never get asked this, and then I see people asking how people get on panels, and I'm like, hey, they don't ask me. They ask Morgan.
I get asked how to get panels.
I get asked as well.
Why do you?
Right now,
I never get asked. So
Okay, that is an excellent question to ask you, although I don't know if you know because it is just you.
Yeah.
How does Aaron?
No one ever asks me how to get on a panel.
They
which
would
is
ask
weird,
them.
because I run the panels.
Sorry.
And I have a list that I look for. First thing I do, and I'm gonna repeat this like 7 more times in the next 45 minutes before we get kicked out. Canon, not fanon.
Please, canon, not fanon.
There are cases, and I showed this to people outside of our particular group who couldn't make it, and they said, there are times when fanon's completely fine. If you're doing a panel that's way more humor-based and it's supposed to be outrageous, absolutely. But the thing to really remember is that canon's universal and fanon isn't. You can make a fantastic Tumblr joke, but if that person is not following the same people as you on Tumblr, they're not going to get it, and you're going to alienate your audience, and you might just end up with all of your jokes falling dead. Not saying don't make 1 or 2 good jokes that are based in fanon. I'm saying be aware of how many you're making and make sure that a lot more of them is accessible to your entire audience. Canon's universal, fanon's not, canon not fanon. I've literally thrown out amazing auditions because their responses were way too fanon, and I couldn't, you're not proving to me you know your character, you're proving to me you look like the character, you can kind of sound like the character, but you're not actually referencing stuff that the character knows. Research related to that. Research. If you don't know how a character acts, rewatch the relevant parts of that character. There are probably supercuts, if you're talking an anime on YouTube, of every time that character comes up. If we're talking about Homestuck, those intro pages are the best thing in the world, aren't they?
Yep. Yeah. I have read over those intro pages
5 or
6 times.
I can do about 2 off the top of my head in their entirety almost.
It's true. Every single time I do a Dirk audition, I read his first couple intro pages first. Every single time. Yeah. And if you have to interact with other characters, read chapters on when that character is interacting with someone. Read pester logs. Play that part of the video game just anytime so that you know. Like, sure, you might know the character, or you might think you know the character, but then go through and reread before every audition, before the panel,
And if perchance, reading what the character says doesn't help you, you can look on their walls and watch some of the movie posters. These are movies that the posters are from. And think. And
I'm not watching Weekend at Bernie's. Can't make me.
What kind of kid likes this horrible movie? And think to yourself, that's how poor their taste is, and I have to pretend that's my taste.
And sometimes it helps to really, like kind of that is, like really look into the character and stuff that's not explicitly stated. Like, I cosplay Jade Harley. I have been Jade Harley on multiple panels. And part of the reason why that is because I analyze the character. I don't just look at what is explicitly stated, I analyze the character.
Can I use an example from you that actually like legit probably puts you over the top for Jade every single time?
Yes, please.
Tori always talks about Beck. Tori always talks about Beck. And I mean, granted, I love animals and I love pets, but I think that Beck is such, literally, at this point, a huge part of Jade's character. That talking of funny. Cute, that was a good wordplay there. Don't kill me. But because Beck is literally such a huge part of Jade's character, I think not talking about Beck
even
is
just
doing
when
injustice
she's
to
not
Beck.
God tier, he raised her basically. He's her guardian, so he is a huge part in her life. It's like Dave always talks about, bro. Beck is Jade's guardian.
Details like that make your audition stand
Guys,
out.
we should move along.
Yes.
We
I really
have
wanted
very
to
little
know.
time and
Yeah.
we have a lot left to cover.
Yeah.
Anything else we want that's bullet pointed that we can just spit right out?
I'm gonna just spit them out right now. Projecting, super important. We talked about it at the beginning of this panel because some of us are quiet. Don't block other people. Be aware of where everyone else is on the stage. I'm gonna do a quick demonstration. If you are on stage and you keep one foot pointed towards the audience, you can't actually turn your butt to the audience. So see how I've got one foot planted? I can't turn all the way around. It is physically impossible. You don't want to show your butt to the audience. Really?
I mean, just because you have a really great butt doesn't mean you should show it to the audience.
Unless it's actually something you're supposed to do.
Yes.
If for some reason you are forced to have a working contest.
It's okay, Morgan. I understand.
But okay, stuff like that. And make sure you're not standing in front of someone unless you're supposed to be.
Confidence.
I'm gonna cut you off because you really shouldn't cut other people off on your panel. That's really annoying.
Okay.
Don't talk over each other.
Let's move along to panel content. I already talked about canon, not fanon, but I'm gonna say it again. Canon, not fanon, canon, not fanon.
Actually, the only thing we haven't touched on in this section is I can't.
Yes, well, let's go for it then.
Let's just do that.
Idea bouncing, Google Doc. The Google Doc's the greatest thing because literally I had people in China, love you Rachel, helping out with the panel because they're on my Google Doc and I put it in the Spurb Live and Rachel's still on the Spurb Live Google Doc.
You know what helps with that? If you're already casted, say you're already casted, or you are part of the panel planning process, it really helps to hang out with people in character, actually. Because if you are improvising and hanging out with people in character, you can bounce stuff off each other, and then something happens, and you're like, oh my god, this is a beautiful idea. Andy and I have done that before.
I think they do it on accident most of the
We
time.
do usually do it on accident, but it's happened. Same thing with Morgan and Lindsay.
Yeah, bouncing ideas off of each other. We use a Google Doc. Everyone types pretty much usually their canon, typing color. Homestuck's really great about that.
If you don't, like, say you're doing like Kingdom Hearts or something, assign a color to everybody so that everyone knows who's who in the doc.
If any of y'all ever take orange, I will kill you.
Do we have any questions?
I will
Live
kill you.
stream?
Yeah.
Someone
Live
look
stream
up- okay,
question.
cool.
I think let's actually, well, yeah, anything?
It's just requests.
For?
Hold on. When it comes to Homestuck panels, would you cast according to popular fandom headcanon or your person headcanon?
No.
Canon,
neither.
canon.
Canon. Canon, not fanon. I don't care what the headcanon is. I don't care if it suddenly became everyone's headcanon that Aridin was black, speaks like a black dude. I'm using a really ridiculous option. I wouldn't care. I would care, you know what, if I got someone who did that headcanon, but they actually understood Aridin's character and they hit on the points of Aridin's character that are on his intro page. Intro pages, guys, seriously. I would cast them over someone who didn't hit that. I don't care what your headcanons are as long as you match up with the actual canon.
Yeah, because there's a bunch of people who interpret characters differently, and interpretations aren't canon, that's interpretations. And yeah, that should be what everyone thinks about when they audition.
It should be what you think is right. It should be what you think will work with your other cast members. You know, obviously you're the one doing the casting. It should, in the end, be your preference, but it shouldn't be, you know, I think this character should sound like this, and that's why you cast them. It should have, your preference should be way down the list. Before, like, I'm friends with this person, but after they look, their cosplay looks good, they understand the character, they seem to have hit all these points. And just for the record, I probably reread Homestuck before every single Homestuck panel I do except Tricksters.
Well,
and I read the Trickster section.
Another thing is that if you only do fanon, that doesn't prove you know the character, that just proves you know how to read Tumblr posts.
Mm-hmm. You can do a character completely in fanon without ever reading Homestuck based off of Tumblr.
It's true. And you can probably pass. And if you're the only person auditioning for that character, I gotta cast you because I want that character on my panel. But you're gonna come up to me then, and you're gonna say something that's horribly, horribly out of character, and I'm gonna know that you haven't read it or that you're unfamiliar enough that I don't want your opinion, and then I'm gonna ignore you. Straight up, actually, well, maybe not ignore you, but your ideas are gonna have less weight with me, whereas I'm gonna pick on Ty. If Ty gives me a suggestion, there is like half a chance I'm also gonna get a link to the relevant page of Homestuck. We've raced, actually, in the search function on MSP. No, you don't.
Sometimes.
You sometimes win.
Okay.
But yeah,
that's
canon.
Yeah.
You know, canon's what I run on.
One last question, then we're moving on.
On the canon, not fanon thing, again, because I'm running a Legend of Korra panel and Bolin's character went to shit in season 2, it's pretty much generally preferred season 1 Bolin. Would it be okay to, even though our panel is taking place end of season 2, to use the canon version of Bolin from season 1?
I can answer that.
To canon from season 2.
Okay, when you have a character that has like basically 2 different kinds of personalities based on where you are in the comic or where you are in the show, it's up to you and the panelists to figure out what part of that character is going to work out for the panel. Like, we've done it before. I cosplay Gamzee. Gamzee obviously has 2 separate kind of personalities. And no matter where we are, I usually go with the first personality you see of him because it's a lot easier to work with on a panel. So just work with whatever is easier for you, honestly.
And honestly, I just say lampshade it, make a nod about it, make sure you reference it, like, yeah, you acted like a jerk last week. I got better.
One of the things Panelstuck did was they would say, like, we're only using canon to this point. So if you want to say we're only using up to season 1 canon, or we're only using up to volume 54 canon, that would be another point to establish. Because then you get everyone else's personalities, they'll restrict it. So say, like, I've never seen Legend of Korra, but say, like, if you are going to restrict, like, canon for season 1, and then use that for every character. And then that way everyone's personalities still all match. You don't want to just have the odd character out that has the mismatched personality. So.
Okay.
Now
Now we're getting to when we're actually starting to prepare for our convention. We've already talked about the script. Can be different kinds, bullet pointed list, full written script, heavy improv. All depends on the kind of panel you're running.
Flowchart.
Flowcharts. Excel is a wonderful, wonderful system. I love Excel.
Any scripting you do, I mean, except for stuff like choose your own panels, your cast is not going to remember their lines. Don't expect them to. It's a one-time panel. It's a one-time panel. You aren't going to have a ton of rehearsal time. You're not going to have everyone have all their script word for word. I try really hard to make sure that the lines make absolute sense in the context of the situation, and everyone knows that they don't have to get their lines right. They just have to get the gist.
And if your scriptwriter, Erin, is really good at characterization, and you're really good at characterization, you don't necessarily have to memorize your lines because how you're going to answer is pretty much how it's meant to be in the script.
This is why canon not failing is great.
If you're running a panel, don't hand your cast members a 43-page script and go, here, memorize this in 2 weeks. It won't happen.
Literally every time my character is mentioned in any Google Doc that Erin makes for any panel, it's, Morgan, you'll wing it, and it'll be okay. And I'm like, yeah,
Well, That's because the first time you were in a panel that I ran, you said, I'm not going to follow this script, so I made sure that your lines made sense in context.
Scripts are great. Scripts are great. Know your cast, know who you're working with, know what they can do. If some people need scripted lines because they're a dumbass and forget everything, then that person will need lines, and
That's
they will
not because
memorize.
they're dumbass. Everyone
Well, I'm a
learns
dumbass.
different.
I need this.
True. You know what's great? Sometimes I'll just lay out the situation, and I'll paste it into a Skype chat with Ty, and Ty will react, and I'll just copy and paste that reaction right into the
Yeah, and then I'll
content.
be reading the script later and go, hey, that was from that Skype conversation.
No,
Anyways.
whoa, you've edited it, and
Another-
it'll be after the
guys,
good.
guys, okay,
Yeah.
we're trying to
move along. But I mean,
something.
don't hand your panelists a 43-page script and say memorize by Tuesday.
Scripts are good guidelines.
They won't like you, and they won't memorize 43 pages of script.
Another thing that we haven't said, for people who are learning lines or learning their points at which they need to react, a really good trick is just learning the line before yours, remembering just a general gist of what you're supposed to do and going. So long as you know just that, your trigger points, you can keep going even if you don't know your lines.
The audience won't know that you don't know your lines.
Yeah, like an example, we were doing like some kind of wrap off the panel stuff, and I knew that John was going to mention Dave's dead bro. Okay, it's Dave. He's going to try and cover it up, and then he's going to be pissed, and he's going to be such just react. I didn't know what I was going to say, so I lunged at him. It worked. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, this is if you've prepared, if you know your character well enough,
And your actors.
and your actors, you're gonna be all right. You know, it'll flow. Everyone will figure out how you're supposed to react. That being said, I will rehearse scene by scene in Skype.
Yep.
I do one mass read through of the script that is a read through, not a rehearsal, just so I know that everyone's read the script once. It's literally the reason I do it. And then if I need to rehearse with people beforehand, it's one scene at a time. Because I can manage a 5-person Skype call. I can't manage a 15-person Skype call. No one's gonna get anything done.
Also, note on that lunging thing, make sure the person you are acting with is comfortable with the lunging. We're bros, we've been friends for a long time. I can lunge at him. I mean, Zagger, I don't really know him that much. I would not lunge at that man.
Plus he's got a nice camera.
He does.
Lunge at that.
Or like the Esper Blind where I rapped. Dave and Dirk were supposed to come at me and be like, oh man, and like attack me. If I wasn't close to them, that'd be kind of weird. I would have been like, all right, this is a little awkward.
Don't script shit that's awkward if you're writing.
Keep your actors in mind when you're scripting. You know, I wouldn't want to put anyone in a situation where they're not comfortable with. But if I'm like, you and your best bud are playing these 2 characters and I can do this with them, that scene's gonna pop.
And
because
then,
it's gonna be people who really want to do that.
And then as a panel, like as you're on, like as a cast member, if you read something on the script and go, whoa, I don't want to do that, don't feel obligated to do that. Tell your leader, yo, I don't want to do that, and then you'll change it and it'll make it work.
Yep.
Make sure.
Don't wobble on that though. If you want out of a thing and then you get back in, don't.
Yeah, and especially when it comes down to it, like if there's something that you're uncomfortable with, make sure you say that you're uncomfortable with it. Don't just say, I don't want to do that, because you sound kind of petulant. So make sure you communicate why you don't want to do something.
And actually, hopping back on the talk with the people you're going to interact with, if, say, you really, you think it'd be in character for this character to pick on that character, make sure you talk to the people playing the other character that you want to pick on. It's great. It can make for great banter. It can be really lively. But to think about who your character interacts with and talk to those people about things you might want to do during the panel. Maybe when you're not on stage, maybe you're just like, can I play with your hair? Because I feel like my character would play with your hair. Make sure that's okay and talk to them beforehand, because I've literally almost broken down in tears from that happening to me when I wasn't prepared for it. Like someone decided to pick on me and I wasn't ready. And I hadn't prepared for that. I didn't know how this character would react to that character saying that. So I just froze up. And it's the worst feeling in the world.
Okay, so going back to our list, some of the more stuff you just need on a panel. Kind of like we're doing here, we have a microphone. You should always check for all of your sound equipment. Ask there on your panel submission form. When you're submitting your panel, there will be a little box that says, hey, what do you guys need? Sometimes there's check boxes. If you need microphones, say you need this many microphones, if that's available. Say the minimum number you can work with. If you have a large cast, you need maybe 4, 5. If you need a lot of space because you're doing a lot of dancing or you're doing a lot of moving or it's a game panel, say I need a big room.
here's an estimate of how many people I guess are going to be here. If you're running it for a first time, you have no idea. 100 is always a good number to start with, and then go up from there. Depending on how many cast members you have and how many people you expect, give an estimate, kind of things like that. Me, because I run dancing panels, I always have to have a sound system. I provide my own sound system most times because panels, I always ask for it every year and never get one. So I always bring my own.
And that's good.
It
Have
sucks.
backup plans.
Have a backup plan. Don't have a plan B. Have a plan 2. Have a plan 20. Plan
Have
30.
plan 47.
Yep, anything you want set up beforehand. I'm gonna point at our excellent cameraman because I talked to him about a month ago, asking, hey, are you free this day? Do you want to come down and film this? I will drop you an email the second we get done with we get the detour panel scheduled. Yeah, I mean stuff like that. Think about, if you want to get it filmed, if you know someone who maybe would want to film it, if you're doing something that you think you might want to preserve for posterity, set that up way beforehand.
Check when Detour or any other convention sends out their schedule. They usually have a map of the convention space. Check what room you're in, and then check the size of that room. We got kind of an interesting situation with our off panel where we requested a tiny ass room and we got the biggest room in the place. That was weird. So we knew going in that we had a huge room that we had to try to fill with either people or voice or activity. It's good to, when you get everything laid out, check your time slot and then check your room. Check what you'll be working with. See if it's a big room, a small room, if it's a con you've never been to or it's a different hotel, just judge based on the map. Usually cons always have a map PDF file on their website, so check that. That's a good thing to know.
And if you don't have equipment, by any chance that you wouldn't, and you do have an opportunity to go check your room while it's clear, there's no one else using it, see how loud you need to be for someone to hear you in the very far back without without a big strain. That is something we definitely benefit from.
On that note, you can, about a week and a half to 2 weeks before a convention, go to the actual hotel and be like, hey, I'm part of this convention, I'm going to be using this room, is there any chance I could check it out? Call them and set up an appointment. They're usually more than willing to let you check out the space you're going to be using.
As long as it's a local con.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wouldn't work so much for ASEN where it's a 9-hour drive.
But if you honestly, a lot of times I feel uncomfortable running panels at out-of-state cons.
Yeah,
I generally would let the local con, the local crowd take care of the panels, and I'm just there to have fun. But yeah, I mean, if you can, that's an option too. Backup plans for backup plans. Let's move on to what happens at the con. Most panels I've been on, if they are Q&A ones, or if there's any scripting at all, they have a rehearsal at the con. Usually it's an hour and a half the night before, which mine have almost all been on Saturday night, so it's been an hour and a half on Friday evening. It is so worth it, because it's the only time you're ever going to be face-to-face.
They can be very hectic, very loud, so you're going to want to find somewhere that is either outside in someone's hotel room, providing you have a small enough cast for that. Do not use someone's hotel room if you have a 20-person cast, because you're not going to be able to hear anything. You're not going to get anything done. Find a corner of the con where there's no one around, like a hallway or something, as long as there's not. We've done it in a hallway before.
Yeah.
Just make sure that you have the room you need, and be prepared to get loud and cut people off, because they're going to be chatting and having fun and doing whatever. It takes a much longer time than you think it will as well.
Personally, I think getting louder and trying to do a shouting contest is the absolute worst thing you can do. It does not encourage people to shut up. It encourages them to talk louder as well. So if you have a clear chain of command, i.e. if we have Aaron trying to get everyone's attention, people will usually be quiet. So when Aaron says, guys, be quiet, and then someone else chimes in louder, saying, be quiet, shut up, that's not a good thing to do. It's rude, it's stupid. And it's...
I will and have sent people into the hall. I'm like, you don't have a scene for 5 more scenes, get out. Go have your conversation in the hall and come back.
We had that.
If you can't tell, because it's pissing me off that you're having a conversation while we're rehearsing.
We've had the time when we had 2 conjoined rooms, and one room was chatting and one room was rehearsal. And when you had a scene that you were in, you went and rehearsed, and when you didn't, you went back and you chat.
Ideally, you shouldn't be chatting because you want to be seeing what other people are going to do on the panel, because you don't want to get super distracted by like, oh my god, that was hilarious, and forget your line.
But it came down to us having to use a separate room.
Yeah. If you want to do photos or something, set up a time pretty well outside of your panel time to do them. We've gotten photos for 2 of our panels, and
Usually right after.
right after works. A lot of the time, we've done some right before as well. A lot of times, you know, you're going to have a giant, beautiful group cosplay, basically. And you're going to have the full cast, and it's going to look awesome. If you want to get those pictures, make sure you find the time and the camera person to get those done. And if if it's something you really want, make it a priority. It's usually not, which is why we've very rarely gotten pictures.
Since we're talking about at con, work with con staff, do not work against con staff. Con staff is not who you want to make enemies with. They will make everything hell, and it will be a horrible experience forever and ever and ever.
And another thing to remember is, well, you're not being paid to do this, neither are they.
Yeah. So if con staff asks you to do something, do it. Don't throw a hissy fit. If they tell you, hey, you're swearing too much for your age bracket, then cut it down. Don't say, well, it's in our blah, 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 blah. If your line is unruly, control your monkeys. Work with the convention staff. Don't work against them. I can't count how many times I've been to a panel where people try to argue with Detour staff, and I'm just like, as an audience member watching these panelists then argue with Detour staff, it breaks immersion, it breaks whatever you're doing. I'm now fed up with you guys because you're rude to the staff, and staff is now fed up with you because you're rude to them, and it's not a good scene. Work with them.
The rest of your fandom will really bad rap. So if somebody else who's entirely unrelated to that particular incident, using yours as an example, but is from the same fandom, then they want to put on a panel, the con staff will have that prejudice. They will have that experience in mind because they are not unbiased people. There are very few people in this world who are able to actually take a step back and be entirely unbiased. So be respectful of your community as well.
I mean, that's true of anything you do at a con. Anything you do at a con, especially if you're in cosplay, reflects on your fandom.
Exactly. We had con staff come in and tell us that we exceeded the fire limit for our first Suburb Live.
No, second,
Detour. They told us that we were past the fire limit, so we had to kick half of the audience out. We didn't argue, we didn't say anything. It was just, this is what we have to do. So don't argue with con staff.
I mean, really, you want to work around it. I asked when they said that, I was like, can we leave the door open? Can they line up outside? They said no. I said okay. I'm like, I'm really sorry, guys. We're recording it. I will, it's something to know going forward. I mentioned in my Detour submission, look, we had to kick off over half of our audience last time. Give us a big room, please.
Yeah, and then they did.
Well, we don't know if they're going to yet.
Well,
Fusion did.
Okay. Just to kind of move things along, we have a little more than 15 minutes left.
Yes, we should
we want to
hurry.
have time to answer the questions that people have been putting on live stream as well.
So we should move on to
So there was one thing on this page we haven't talked about, which is talking with your cast and analyzing what went well, what did not go so well, and ideas for making things better. Even if your panel was flawless, come up with ways to make it.
No panel was flawless. This is my line. Even if your panel was fucking flawless, come up with ways to make it shine more than polish shit out of a unicorn.
You know what? And I'm really proud of all of our Spurb Lives, but we had the discussion that we're not doing any more Jeopardies because it's something we want to do differently. It's something that we're like, we've done this twice. We're done. See, it's not something that we necessarily did wrong, but it's something we want to improve for next one.
Exactly.
I'm really excited about what we're going to do. I'm sorry.
Yeah, every panel can be better. Everyone can be better.
And if you want to do a panel again, it should be different.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be the same old, same old. You want to do something different.
Unless, well, I mean, I kind of have.
Do you do the same songs every year?
No.
Do you do the same panel?
No, I don't.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
You might keep the exact same format, but you're changing the content.
Yeah, just clarifying because don't oh no, I run a game panel, now I can't run another game panel again. No, you can run a game panel.
Asperb Live multiple times, and it's still Asperb Live. It's still basically skit-based for the most part.
Saturday Night Live, I don't have an obsession with Tina Fey, what?
But it's Saturday, okay, so it is skit-based, but we do different skits.
You should also try to get some feedback from your audience too, because they were there, they had to watch and sit through all of your shit. So they would have a lot of feedback as to what worked and what didn't. So try to ask your audience members too what worked, what didn't, what can we do better. It helps.
So I asked a point about after a panel, or really going into another panel.
I guess, should I read that big bold line?
If you wish to, I'm like just looking for things we need to hit.
Some etiquette while planning panels. For the love of everything holy in this universe, do not steal a panel name. If someone has a panel name, don't fucking use it. That's their panel name. Ask them if they're not gonna run that panel that year, but you really wanna step it up, because panel names are how people recognize panels from year to year to year. They'll notice, oh hey, I went to that last year, it was really fun. If they go there and see completely different format, completely different people, but it's the same name, they're gonna question it. Don't steal other panel names. Like, I would really hate to see like another person submit like S-Verb Live without talking to Aaron.
We've tried.
Yeah, people have tried, and it's not the best etiquette. If you think of a good idea for a panel and you want to steal somebody's name, then ask them if they're not running that panel that year, and ask them to do it.
No, I'm just gonna kill someone.
Oh, okay.
No.
It's a really big etiquette thing that you don't steal. Like, you don't read through all these guidebooks and go, wow, that panel is named really cleverly, I'm gonna use it.
The person in question, for the record, who wanted to use my panel name, asked me, and I said no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a polite thing to do, is that if you see something like, I don't know, I read through a lot of the guidebooks because they give you a good idea of what panels have been done and what hasn't been done, and it's a good planning procedure. I know I look like a freak side, like 1,500 detour pamphlets, but it helps. You read everyone's descriptions and you know what gets used and what doesn't get used, and it helps make sure that your panel's original and not something that someone else did.
So there's a point on here about publicizing, and I'm thinking that's probably Andy?
No,
Brian?
that was Brian. That's all me. I can read it.
All right, well, just sum it up if you want.
I'll sum it up. Advertising is something really important, especially before, and especially after your panel, if you want to make a new panel. Some things to think about, depending on, how many people.
May I have your attention, please?
No.
The time is now 4:46.
Oh.
And the Southfield Library will be closing in 14 minutes.
Thank you. Anyway.
That's our timer reminding us when to get out of here.
Yeah. We're going to be done in about 10. Things I wrote down, a couple acquaintances at Nya Productions, shout out to them, they're really great. They run popular Orin High School Host Club panels. They have a really big like page on Facebook. They've got a Tumblr. Cast members can go up and post things. This is especially good if you have a long lasting cast, same cast every time. So things like that. You can go and post your panel to MN cosplayers, Holden Stuck's MN, things like that. Get your panel out there. You want people to go there. You want people to have fun. Things like that. Polls are also another great way to find out what the audience likes. If you're just like, hey audience, here's a couple ideas, have at it. What do you like best? What do you want to see from us?
There's too many panelists.
Oh, over 10 gets to be a lot.
It does. I mean, granted, coming from a Homestuck perspective, you kind of are stuck with 16 as your bare minimum.
Well, there's also something to keep in mind, which is how long your panel is going to be.
That's the point.
And if your panel is going to be very short, the less cast you have, the easier it is for people to pay attention, be involved for that quick one-shot thing. But, I mean, if we have an hour-long panel, 16, 20 people is a hassle. People get very little stage time. People in the audience don't get time to ask questions.
Yep.
And
it's tough, and you want to make sure that everyone, if you're doing Q&A, that everyone has time to get asked a question.
Exactly.
And I do the math. If I have 15 cast members, an hour-long panel, that means everyone gets 4 minutes of stage time if it's exactly equal. It's not going to be exactly equal, but I mean, it's my goal.
Which that results in a lot of people feeling left out, even if they were on cast. It's unavoidable sometimes when you have a lot of people in your fandom or in that part, but try to cut it down. Maybe do something special with only these characters, try to switch it up. It's easier to manage when you have less people. The more people is the more people in the Skype call, the more people in the Google Doc, the more people who want to critique your script and want to do this and want to argue with you.
Something I like to do, and it's easier for me because I have songs to work with, so I time how long songs are, and then within the hour span, I have time put in for times between songs, I have time for break, an audience thing, I time it out. Erin also does the same thing, I'm pretty sure, with all of her skits.
Yep. I have an idea of about how much time everything's going to take. I have a kind of script page goal. And like I said, I'm not expecting people to follow the script, but I'm expecting the script to be a good estimate. Also, talking about other kinds of panels, Discussion panel, we're a little big right now, but just because I was talking to all of these guys and I didn't know who was going to show up. We were supposed to have about 3 people less than we do right now. 5 is my optimal number for discussion panel. It's easy to pass a mic that way. If you're down to 1 mic, it's easy to kind of keep it demonstrated. This is a little big, but 5 is good for discussion panel. Any other kinds of panels?
Game type panels, 2 people. 2 or 3 people
with helpers, though.
Yeah, to make sure that, you know, because you really only need to explain rules and then keep rules in force. So don't have like a 15-person cast for tag.
Yep.
Or truth or dare.
And I mean, you can have other people. They might not be really cast. They'd be referees, and they should be visible.
Yeah.
8 to 10.
Yep.
8 to 10 is my estimate for like a really involved character type panel.
Yep. Any other questions? Can we
check the chat?
Check the chat.
I like having a chat there. It seems really cool and professional. Like, yo, go check the chat. Like, people
Yeah,
are watching.
it's true. People are watching us do this.
Let's see. People are asking about what happened at Detour. Let's see.
Our Detour Spurb Live, our room was really small, and we had to take out half the audience.
What happened with that is my room was right next to it. I was running my vocal and dancing hour right next to it, and I got the bigger room, and they got the smaller room.
And you know what? I am terrible about this. This is something you should absolutely do. Aaron, remember this next time. Check and see what panels are near you and what's going on next to you. I mean, we could have talked.
We could have talked and traded rooms.
We wouldn't have known we needed to. But
if we talked to Constaff.
Yeah, we could have talked to Constaff about that. Trickster panel, we were next to karaoke. It didn't really matter, but it could have been. First Spurb Live, we were next to the rave. They warned us, to be fair. They warned us that that was going to be a factor, and I said, I'd rather have the big room and a time when I think people can show up. The other time was like Sunday morning, and I said no.
Yeah, because you will get assigned rooms and you will get assigned times, and there's a very small window of opportunity when you might be able to argue or barter for a better time slot or a different room.
It is immediately.
That time is, yeah, immediately, or else the schedule gets set in stone and everything you have to work with what you got.
Seriously, I mean, I don't care if you have to skip your lunchtime at work. I don't, you know, if you got to take care of it right away. If you can't do it, get someone else to. This is where the chain of command comes in. Be like, yo, can you email, can you help me figure out what to say for this? I got to get this out tonight because it's got to be right away.
Okay.
So we've got, when walking around the panel, would you use the same rules you would as you would if you were in a play?
No, because, I mean, not really.
It depends on the panel.
Yeah. It's something you should discuss with your panel.
Like in our most recent, one of our most recent SBURBs, it was before Trickster, so it was Annie Minnie.
Yeah.
Annie Minnie. We had John, Dave, and one other person I'm forgetting right now.
Wasn't it Carcat?
It was Carcat. We were going through the audience trying to look for something. Carcat doesn't matter. And we just walked around. We didn't really have any rules. We had a huge room. Your stage is not limited to like the first 5 feet, and then the chairs are not accessible. So it depends entirely.
And keep projecting.
And at that point, it's impossible to not have your back to some audience members, so just kind of be mindful to where the majority is, but just go with it, and as Ty said, project.
Continue to project.
Be in character. I honestly have a kind of standing rule in most Spurb Lives where, like, if you're not in a skit, if you've got 10 minutes and you want to go do something, go do it. Make sure you're around, back on stage for if we need you for something, but you're not.
And don't make yourself a bigger distraction than the thing that's going on stage.
And an interesting thing about that exact point is we've had people comment on how, because of all the background stuff going on, it's distracting from the main plot on stage.
All right, and we've got a security guard giving us the 5-minute warning, so we can do one more question. Yeah, there's security guards here at this library. I know, and I would love to do that, but we don't have time.
Exactly.
We'll maybe run another one before Anna Minnie?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll figure out a timeline.
Is that it then? Is there more questions?
I think that's it. We have to pack one. Thanks
Yeah,
for watching.
guys.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
Cool. I forgot to say bye.
Someone should probably live stream's actually still going.
Oh, is it?
I've got it.
Bye, live stream, guys.
Bye.
Have a nice